about the rooster.
That's fine.
I'll go shoot him. That'll quiet him down.
Okay, here we are in my sister Leslie's mobile home in Lawns, and it's April 2023, and I am going to be asking you some questions, Leslie. Okay, so first of all, we're talking about the house, which you recently had to vacate, and I want you to tell me what is the history of the house.
Well, when our parents, Lyn and Phyllis Ott, got into Meher Baba, they heard that Meher Baba wanted people with families, with kids, to move to the center. So they came to Myrtle Beach, and they bought a third of an acre from Mrs. Patterson.
Now, what year was this?
1967. Which is 56 years ago.
Well, they bought it in 66.
Well, the deed says 67, so maybe the deed just didn't get printed until 67.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so 57 years ago, and I'm only 61, so I was only 4 years old when we moved here.
Okay.
So
I mean, we moved into the house. Mm-hmm. Well, no,
No, we built the house. They
right.
built the house on the land they
right.
bought.
Well, they started building the house on my 7th birthday, and so it was 1966.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I had my 5th birthday in the Chestnut house just before we moved in, and our only guest I remember was Irani.
Okay. So there were no people on the center at the time?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So now tell about the house and the history of it.
So they built a house. When we first moved here, it was a family of 4 kids, and 2 siblings. The older 2 were from my mother's previous marriage, and so it was mom and dad and 3 girls, and I was the youngest. And so
Three girls and 1 boy.
Mm-hmm, and they built a house, and over the years there were 6 additions. They built 6 additions. That's how many additions were added on it that they built. And they also, in 1980 something, I have a receipt for it right here, when I had to go to court, when the center, I was the defendant because the center wanted me to leave my house. I brought this receipt from Briarcliff Acres to my mom and dad from 1988. It was for paving the road from Briarcliff Acres. They paid Briarcliff Acres to pave the road that the center used my parents. Well, there wasn't a gate at the time. It was just a wooden gate.
So they paid for all the property improvements.
Yeah, and this is it if you want to you want to see it. And this is the deed from Elizabeth Patterson.
And the date on the deed is what?
Well, the date here says do you want to look at it?
No.
Okay. It just Phyllis and Lynfield Ott.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Oh, maybe the date it was signed. I'll look at the signature. The date by the it says 20th of January 1967. So maybe January is the first month of the year. So maybe she didn't get, Elizabeth's lawyer or whatever didn't get around to getting them.
We would have already been living in it.
Yeah. Right. So they'd already moved in, but she got. This is when they were issued a deed. Because sometimes you have to wait for the.
Does
deed.
it say anything about the fact that the house doesn't get inherited by the children?
It just says. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say anywhere that they can't leave it to the kids. It just says that they are. something about it being a life estate and the survivor of each other. Like,
right.
there's...
It's an agreement to two people, and their children are left out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is supposed to be a spiritual center, right? Doing this.
So, they...
And Lyn has a hereditary eye disease, and how many of his relatives, descendants, have this eye disease? What's the disease called?
Retinitis pigmentosa.
That's right.
And I have it, and both of my sons have it.
Okay. Okay. So what's your eyesight like?
Well, I'm completely blind in one eye. I have...
I noticed you were able to read.
Yeah. I had cataract surgery, and they, the doctor did something about my astigmatism. I'm nearsighted, and I need glasses for distance, but I used to read like this, like before I got cataract surgery, but now it's not too bad. It doesn't really affect my central vision as much as my field of vision. I have a limited field.
You have tunnel vision?
I have I don't know, it's not exactly tunnel vision, it's a limited field of vision. I don't have peripheral vision, so I guess...
That's tunnel vision?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have stigmatism, you're blind in one eye, you have tunnel vision, that means you don't have peripheral vision. And what about night blindness?
Yes, night blindness.
So can you drive at night?
No.
Okay. Can you see anything in the dark room where it's behind? No. So you have to have bright light, you can see through one eye, and with surgery, you can see now.
Dr. Yang, a really brilliant surgeon I went to in Charleston that I was referred to because of my special case, she did something to, no, I don't know if she completely fixed it, but she made it so that my astigmatism was better. She told me she could do something about that.
Okay, so are all these symptoms of the disease?
No, I mean,
well,
not necessarily.
Is, the tunnel vision is.
The lazy eye isn't really, but my lazy eye, when they've taken like pictures of the retina, it's completely covered with retinitis pigmentosa, like all through the macular. So the macular, the macular, like the RP attacked the macular.
So you inherited this from your father.
Right.
So here the Meher Center, the Meher Spiritual Center, is creating a contract with Lyn and Phyllis and leaving out his daughter, who they didn't know at the time.
Well, they didn't know, yeah.
But they would find that out about a year later. Nothing was done for you.
Right.
You were just disinherited. Okay, that's fine. And both of your sons have retinitis pigmentosa. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so now, what was life like growing up on the center? How old were you then when you moved on to the center?
Just turned 5, I believe, if my memory serves me right. I know I was 4 when we moved here. We had to rent a place while the house was being built. And then, so I have a memory of turning 5 before we moved in, but I went to kindergarten from the house. My kindergarten teacher used to bring me home because Mom was working for the welfare department. So Dad, we had a maid that would cook lunch for Dad named Dolly. Mm-hmm. So I would just stay with Dad. And then at one point, because he hadn't had his, when we first moved, I remember, I don't have, some of my early memories could be confused because I was so young, but I was like a baby really. They let him use that, the reason they called that men's cabin on the center of the studio was because Elizabeth let him use that cabin as a studio, while the house was being built. But he had he didn't have that big studio with the high ceiling when we first moved. That was not built till 674. He had his studio was just a big room, and then there was a glass sliding door where my parents' bedroom went to the studio, which is kind of romantic when if you think about it. Like if you're an artist and you and your wife have their bedroom and a glass sliding door and then your studio, it's kind of like a movie, you know, kind of like in the movies, you know, nice.
Okay, so now you grew up and you went off and had your life and you were married, right? Tell me, you had your own house at one time, right?
Well, yeah, not for long.
You and your husband.
Yeah, I married a guy and we.
What was his name?
Ron Walsh.
Okay.
He's a Christian now and he's
Okay.
remarried and has more kids, but I never married again. We got divorced in '95. We did build a house together, but when we split up, we decided to sell our house. So
okay. Now, jumping way forward, our mother died at 96 recently.
right.
What was that, about 6 months ago?
Yes, and I took care of her.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that. So, how did you come to be the one to take care of your mother? And you took care of her in the house.
Right, in her home. That's why I moved in.
And our father died way back about 27 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
25 years ago.
25 years ago. So, what was that like, and how did you end up in that job?
Well, I volunteered for it. I was close to Mom, and my sisters had lives of their own and didn't live here. So when COVID restrictions lifted, she was in the manor for a while, and I was living up here, and I would go. I'd have to make an appointment to go because of the strict, and I went as much as possible, and then she wanted to go home, so I ended up taking her home to live and move, and I was staying at her house anyway a lot of the time because it was easier to get to the manor.
Now, you already had this place, so this is a mobile home.
I moved out
Long's,
here
outside of Myrtle Beach.
I moved out here in 2019 because before Mom developed Alzheimer's. I didn't really want to move out here because it's so far out. It's very, it's a long way to stores and everything, but I used to live at a mobile home park in North Myrtle Beach, and they sold it for $2.5 million. So everybody in my neighborhood had to move, either sell their trailer, move their trailer, or if they were renting their trailer, just move.
Okay, so you had a place, but you came to live with Phyllis in the house that you grew up in as a child.
Yes.
To take care of her. Now, for how long did you take care of her in the house?
2 years.
Okay.
But
she had Alzheimer's?
Mm-hmm. And no, it was more than 2 years. I think it was 2 years. Well, anyway, yes, she had Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She
So you had to do all the things like helping her to the bathroom and
well, she
shower, baths.
I had to give her bed baths. She wasn't strong enough to get into the bath. When she first came home, she was somewhat able to go to the bathroom, but then
did the Mayhair Center offer any help?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay.
I had, in order for me to, David was also living with us, but he couldn't do stuff like, change diapers, things like that, like I had to do. But, so that I could get, do you want me to tell him to, okay.
You better tell him to.
Excuse me for 1 minute.
It's okay. Okay, so, you were telling, you can go back where you were.
Okay, so, I hired, there was Mom was on hospice because with Alzheimer's, the complications of it, people don't tend to not live very long. Mm-hmm. So she was on hospice, and then she'd have to get recertified for it like every 6 months. But they would they would send a nurse like once a week and like an aide to help me give her a bath. I didn't always take advantage of their service every time because I usually had her cleaned up by the time they came because they would come so late sometimes. But the social worker from hospice gave me a list of you know, companies that can send someone to help you take care of her. So I hired a company called Compassionate Care, and we couldn't afford, Mom hardly had any money left, but we couldn't afford much. So I hired this wonderful lady through Compassionate Care named Beatrice, and we're friends. We're still friends. We have coffee together. And
you raised some money through GoFundMe.
Yeah. And I would also sell some paintings and put them in Mom's bank account.
And also Mimi and Betsy would send you money?
Very little.
Okay, but the point is that you're not, you're poor.
Yeah. And it was Mom's money that was, you know, because any donation I put in Mom's bank account. So
that's right, because you can't work, right?
Well, I mean, it was work. I mean,
people no, I mean, you are a disability. Yeah.
I'm on disability, right. But I don't work because like for a paid job.
Right.
So, no, I didn't get paid to do that. And
the point I'm trying to make is that when the center wanted to go through with it seizing the house, and there were lots of options for the Mayher Center, they're doing this not to a wealthy lady with a big house, but a poor girl with a trailer.
Right.
And is this a double wide or a single wide?
It's a single wide.
Okay. How many bedrooms?
2.
Okay.
1 bathroom.
All right. And now, how much money does the Mayher Center have? I'm just curious.
$13 million, from what I understand.
Okay. And how much land do they have? 500
acres.
And how much was your parents' property?
It was 1/3 of an acre.
Okay, so a spiritual center with $13 million and 500 acres has to snatch this up, this 1/3 of an acre. Now, is the land on the have a view of a lake or the ocean?
No. In fact, they never even let me have a key to their beach the whole time that I lived there.
So you lived on the center, but didn't have a key to their beach.
Right.
So how could you go to the beach?
We didn't go to the beach. Because we can't go to we weren't in Briarcliff residence.
So you had no access to the
No
the
beach access whatsoever.
And how far from the beach were you?
Only maybe maybe a mile.
Yeah, that's a long way.
But we had no access.
My point is that what would be the motive of the Mayher Center? See, I want to get to the point that you finally recently. So Phyllis passed away, and then at this point, you hoped that maybe if you went to court and before a judge, maybe you wanted to make sure this was really legal, that they could literally throw you out.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that we're videoing, so I need.
Yeah.
All right, before you do more of that, could I just give you a full sealed pack of Montego Menthol 100s right now for that pack of Lucky Strike Menthol 100s that I got for myself?
Go ahead, whatever you have to
okay.
do.
Here.
Thank you.
So Phyllis passed away, and then what happened when she died?
Okay, so she died on September 5th, and I didn't want the center to know she died, or anybody to know she died, because I didn't want to get hassled. I was right with her when she died. She suffered a lot, and I was in feeling a lot of grief, and so I had to arrange her, she didn't have exactly a funeral because she had like a family viewing, private family viewing, because legally you can only have immediate family if the person's not embalmed, but Mom had told me that she wanted a viewing, so I arranged that, and the family came, and that was your daughter Megan and her baby were there. It was nice. And I didn't want, even my nieces who stayed on the center and Mimi stayed on the center, I told them, please don't tell them that Mom died, and they did. They kept their word.
Well, why didn't you want them to know she died?
Because I didn't know how soon they would start hassling me.
Okay.
But what happened was, in late September, I ended up hospitalized because I had biliary colic, which is an inflamed gallbladder. Hmm. And so I was
that's when they told you maybe
no,
to get out?
They didn't start putting letters in the mailbox telling me I needed to leave because their tax-free status made it so they can't do anything benevolent.
They had a tax-free status. Why?
They claimed, it wasn't true because they didn't even bring it up in court because it's not even true, but they claimed that because of their tax-free status, this is a news clipping of them getting their tax-free status, that they can't do anything benevolent for somebody.
They can't do anything good.
Right. And this is
that's what they told you?
This is the tax, yes. And this is the tax.
What's the date of that getting the tax-free status on that newspaper?
Oh, January 25th, 1980 something.
So
1984.
They only became a church in 1984?
Yes. And this is a receipt for the tax for 2022.
So when you say they said that for the tax reasons, they couldn't do anything benevolent, which means good. What was the good thing you wanted them to do?
They said, I didn't ask them, it was just they were telling me I had to leave because they can't do anything that would benefit anyone because of their tax-free status.
That's good. Right.
And this is the receipt I paid the 2022 taxes because the tax bill comes in October. It was over $700.
That's fine. You had to pay the taxes.
And I paid it out of my pocket.
So what would the center have such a strong need for this 1/3 of an acre?
Nothing. There's no
Well, I mean,
reason.
don't they do religious practices around your house or something?
No.
Is there some facilities or gazebos or something around your house?
No.
Do they have services there?
No.
Do they meditate there?
No.
So it's not in a beautiful place. It's just in the woods.
Yes.
With a dirt road that parents put in. Mm-hmm. To get there, and you have no access to the ocean, but they needed it.
Yeah.
And they couldn't possibly even let you stay there longer. Are there other exceptions to this? Is there any other property on the center?
Yes. Mr. Connor and his wife Wendy, who's Jane Haynes' daughter, live in a life estate as well, but it's in Charles Haynes' name, which Jane added his name to the deed. I guess I don't know at what point.
So they have in their case, the people throwing you out, they do stay on the center.
Yes.
So in other words, the center can do something benevolent for them, but not for you.
Yes, and also
because of the tax status.
Also, Mr. Connor gets $80,000 a year for being the director of the center, and he's been in control. He and Miss Barbara Blues have been in charge of the center for years and years and years, and I've even found a letter to my mother from the 90s, which is a really long time ago, telling her that she couldn't have a God Speaks meeting at the center and that she could have one at her house, but it couldn't be on the center calendar. And
okay, now when Phyllis died, didn't you have a lot of furniture and paintings and things that you had to move?
Yes.
So how was the center? What did you do? Did you have an estate sale?
No, and I have a letter in my hands right now from... Okay. This is a letter from Mr. Connors. He says...
who lives on the center?
Yes, he says... I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Does he pay rent?
No. He says, I'm writing because we have heard that you may be having an estate sale at Sherryard Gatehouse. Okay, they always call it that, but it wouldn't exist if my parents didn't build it and name it that. And sometime in the near future. I'm sorry to say that as the property is now part of Mayhair Center, I have to ask that you please refrain from having this sale, but to find an alternative venue instead. You may not be aware that given our tax status, no selling of any kind can take place on center property. Well, that's bull, because Mom and Dad made a living at the house selling paintings.
Right, after 1984 when they got this tax status.
And when I went to court, he was there with their lawyer, the center lawyer, and Mr. Connor, and I was there alone. I bluffed that I had a lawyer. I did go to a lawyer and got advice, but I didn't have the money.
What is this tax status based on? Can you look at the newspaper?
I will in a second.
Okay.
I just want to say that
All right.
they showed the judge the original letter telling me that they wanted me out by February 3rd, and this. And I pointed out, when it was my turn to talk, when the judge called on me, I said, well, actually, he only reminds me to leave in the second letter. The second letter is telling me that I can't have an estate sale. And yet the eviction says she needs to take all her furnishings and stuff. So it's like, I just pointed that out to the judge that.
What did the judge think of all this?
Well, he was nice. He let me, they only talked for about a minute.
Who's they?
Buzz's lawyer. I mean, Mr. Connor's lawyer.
So he runs the center, and he's there with the Mayor Center's lawyer?
Yes.
And then you were the other person?
Yes.
Did you have a lawyer there?
No.
Okay. This was the court appointment for the eviction? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, the judge, they got called on first. They spoke for about a minute. All they said was that I had to leave because my parents died. They had a copy of the deed, a copy of my mother's death certificate, a letter saying that I own a trailer near Loris, because I'm almost in Loris. I'm so far out, and where her son lives. Basically, they showed that. They didn't say all that. They just said, here's the deed. She can't stay at the property because it's her parents' life estate. She can't, so she has to leave. And this is her parents' death certificate. We've asked her to leave 2 times and she refuses to leave. So the judge called on me next, and that's when I pointed out that I wasn't, he let me tell the entire story, and I gave him copies of all of this, and he let me talk as much as I wanted, telling my side of the story, and he even asked me questions, like, because I told him, I have 3 siblings, and he asked me if they were helping, and things like that, and I said my brother is helping.
So you would have liked to have continued to live in the house?
Yes.
All right. Well, tell me, what did the judge think of your?
Well,
the center. What did he think of the center pushing you out? I mean, did he go, well, they have a good point here?
He didn't.
They have a right.
He didn't comment. I had gone to a real estate lawyer for advice. I paid him for He didn't take the case because of the way this deed. He says there's no way we can win but he said they can take the property because of this deed and the way it's deeded. Yeah. But he said there is no legal reason why they have to. So I told the judge, I did go to a lawyer.
No, but there's a legal, they're not allowed to do anything benevolent.
Well, but the lawyer I went to said there was no legal reason. And they didn't even bring that up, which they didn't even bring up their reason because it's not true. No. And I've talked to ministers, lawyers, churches, everything. They all say this is not true. So anyway, I said that...
In other words, they could have let you stay.
I said that the lawyer I went to said the only reason for them wanting you to leave is greed.
Okay.
And though the judge said, yes, I do believe it is business related. Okay. Now that's the same thing.
Right, of course. So let me ask you a question. this is some kind of church for Mayor Baba.
Right.
Okay, do you know anything about Baba's teachings?
A little bit.
Okay, is there something in his teachings where you need to get people's property?
No, in fact, the stuff that I know
try to get
is,
blind people to donate their children's property for the inheritance.
No.
No, is that? You sure? I mean, why would they? So why? I mean, I'm trying to find the motive of the center. Anybody can see your motive for wanting to stay there for a while, or whatever they can allow.
Well, one reason I wanted to stay there, and I told the judge this.
Yeah.
My son, well, not just me, but I was centrally located, and I take Ubers a lot because of my vision. In fact, I took an Uber to court, and I took an Uber to Santee Cooper and City of Myrtle Beach to get my mother's utilities turned off. Because of my eyesight and exhaustion. By the time this thing was, over, I couldn't even walk without following. I had to borrow a cane from the neighbors because I couldn't walk, and my head was spinning.
All right. So back to the motive. There must be something in Baba's teaching that says you need to take people's property, because obviously they don't have any. They obviously love Baba and follow Baba there. It's the Meher Baba Center, so it must be something you don't know about.
Well, they didn't quote any Baba thing, but
all right.
But
anyway, they had you leave. How were you after you left? So you moved out. You couldn't get your stuff because you couldn't have an estate sale initially, but you moved into the trailer. You moved up, and then wasn't there a problem with your health at that point?
Yes. My head was spinning, like the room was spinning, and no, like I didn't drink or anything, and the room was spinning, and
once you got back to the trailer?
Well, no, when I'm going through this thing where they're making me leave and I have to go to court. It started while I'm trying to get ready to leave, because I have 2 cats, and I had, the day I left, I had to put them in their carriers and get them out, and I had to leave the
So
furniture.
You're having symptoms of tremendous stress.
Yeah, and I thought I was coming down with like ALS or something, because like I couldn't
Well,
walk.
by the way, maybe they were stressed too, the center. What was Buzz's disposition while you were in the room with the judge, for instance?
Oh, well, when I was...
What's he seemingly stressed out?
I was in a waiting room,
yeah.
And it had been busy, but then it had cleared out, and the only people in the waiting room... We had our hearing in the judge's chambers.
Yeah.
So while we were waiting to be called into his office by the security guard, the only people in the waiting room were Mr. Connor and the center lawyer. They were sitting together, talking quietly. You know how people do in a public place. And I was sitting on the other side, by myself. And I overheard Mr. Connor telling her, it was a woman lawyer, my wife and I, we go to Australia every year. I mean, I don't mean to sound like...
So he's gloating about how much money he has.
Well, it's basically, it's not the lifestyle I live.
All right. So there's absolutely no empathy in these people.
No.
Is that a teaching of Baba, not to have empathy for others?
No.
What?
No.
Are you sure? I mean, didn't
sure.
Baba say something like, other people are just sort of, something you can use?
No, I mean...
Get what you can.
No, in fact, it was like...
Don't care about other people.
No, in fact, how to love God.
Yeah, what does Baba say about how to love God?
I don't remember it all, but I think it's something like to care about other people.
Yes, he said to love God, the most practical way is to care about your fellow beings. To love your fellow beings.
And
so these people aren't really Baba followers. They're more like real estate people with a business, which has a tax-free status.
Yeah.
As long as they don't do anything benevolent, they don't have to pay taxes.
According to them. I mean, about the benevolent.
According to them. Now, I wanted to ask you, in that newspaper where it says they have a tax-free status, can you read the article, just start the article, so we can understand what is the tax-free status for? Usually, like a non-profit that's tax-free
it just says,
is doing some charitable work.
the Mayhair Spiritual Center Incorporated near Briarcliff Acres has won its fight for tax exemption status with the South Carolina Tax Commission. John W. Foster, chairman of the Tax Board of Review, issued a ruling Tuesday that the entire 497-acre oceanfront tract of the U.S. 17 spiritual retreat was tax exempt. The case came before the State Review Board after Horry County tax assessor Don Ellison appealed an earlier ruling granting the center continuing tax exempt status. Although the Tax Commission's Property Tax Division approved the center's application for exemption that part is a little bit gut. I know it's important. I think it says
just skip it.
Okay, sorry. This is an old newspaper clipping. So Ellison requested a review, and the exempt status was set aside pending the hearing before the commission. After a January 10th hearing, the commission upheld the exemption, but Horry County appealed. So Horry County didn't want them to have a tax exemption. Okay, the appeal by the county was based on allegations that the entire tract was not necessary to the center's meetings and to the conduct of its business, and that the interpretation of the status urged by the center would allow property held for commercial appreciation to be exempted under a religious guise and later sold for commercial purpose. The property consists of 6,289 feet of oceanfront frontage,
which is more than a mile of oceanfront,
and 2,143 feet of highway footage. And in other hands would be considered prime resort development property. In tracing the history of the center, the panel's ruling said the property tax deeded in 1943 to Elizabeth Patterson by her father, Simeon Chapin, is that how you say his name?
Yes.
Who in turn conveyed the land in 1948 to Myrtle Beach Irani Meher Baba, a religious leader. In 1969, Foster noted a non-profit corporation, Mayhair Spiritual Center Incorporated, it got a little bit faded there, so we can't read that word. Took the title to the property with the corporation's stated purposes: to maintain a spiritual retreat for rest, meditation, and prayer, to maintain a library primary of religious, philosophical, and inspirational books accessible to the public, to hold group meetings for the...
Is the library accessible to the public?
Well, I guess if they...
How would they know that there's a library?
They don't know.
No.
They would have to be like in the loop. They have to be.
That's right. So it's a secret library.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's kind of boring. So I don't think
that's enough. That's enough. Do you have the thing where it says they couldn't do anything benevolent?
Well, if they don't word it that way, for some reason,
can't find that.
I misplaced the first letter, but it says because of their tax-free status, we can't do anything to benefit any individual. That's what they say.
Okay, they can't benefit humans.
Right.
But
now, I might have.
Is this 497 acres? Is it used for worship and meditation?
I don't know. I mean,
when you go to the beach, do the people like walk the whole mile?
I don't go to the beach. In fact, the whole time I lived there...
No, they don't even give you access.
The whole time I lived there, I took care of Mom all the time, so I never left the house.
Okay.
Beatrice came for a few hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday so I could get errands done and so I could
All right, so you don't really know what they do.
But the thing is that the whole time I was living at the center for 3 years, the only time I went down to their center property was for Mom's, they had a little memorial when she died a few days later where they showed a video of her and then people shared about her. So that's the only thing I went to. I didn't go to any of their other things.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know the answer to that.
Whatever they're doing down there.
Another thing I wanted to say was that I told the judge, because you were asking me what the judge thought, and I was telling him that my son had lived with his grandma from the time he was 19 and he's 33, and that he has this eye disease too, and he takes Ubers home at night, and that it was and that it was convenient. So now he's staying with Chris, sometimes, and he's going to be staying at a hotel at night. But it was hard on him, and he's, for this whole month that he's been working, because he's a professional musician. He's a professional musician.
What do you mean? What does he do?
Plays guitar and sings in bands.
Right, okay.
And
on the beach in the summer.
He's really suffered a lot because he's had to go. Like one night, I said, "Where are you staying tonight?" "I'm have to stay up in Surfside tonight with a friend."
So they strongly inconvenienced your family. Mm-hmm. All right. Is there anything else that you want to add? I think you've made it pretty clear that this is some kind of scumbag cult with a bunch of property, and it has no empathy. But anyway, that's obviously there's something about Baba you don't know. Obviously, Baba was a horrible monster. But whatever, we don't care. I mean, he's dead. So, now, is there anything else you want to add? Because this is already getting kind of...
Yes, there is something kind of shocking.
All right, go ahead.
When they first called me up, I was still very sick because I hadn't had my gallbladder removed yet, and I was in...
Did you mention the gallbladder before?
Yes, I was in the hospital after Mom died. I was admitted because of...
Well, while you were still in the house?
Yes, I was intending to live there. I wasn't going to leave.
You just wanted to fight it and hope that something would happen.
Yes, I was just, because Mom had told me, before she got dementia, she would say, "Oh, they wouldn't dare throw you out."
So even though she's the one who signed this paperwork to make you get kicked out, she was telling you after she died.
Well, not just her and Dad's signatures.
Okay, so the parents. They did this, but then before she died, she wanted you to fight it when she died.
Well, she didn't say that. It's just that she thought, she was naive because she thought that they wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
She didn't think that they would really do that.
Right.
But
okay. So she regretted having made this arrangement herself.
Yes, in fact, she tried to.
Did she ever tell them that?
Yes, she tried to change it. She went to lawyers and she even tried to add me to the deed, but before she had dementia.
Okay.
The center wouldn't allow her. And I know she was telling the truth because the lawyer I went to, a real estate lawyer, he said that's true. Because of this deed, they would have to, she couldn't add you to the deed without their permission.
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to say what they did that was very inconsiderate and not kind at all. Okay. Was that I was very sick because I didn't have my gallbladder removed until November 22nd, and I've been better since I recovered from my surgery. But my surgery was coming up, and it was still gallbladder is a terribly painful thing, and it affects your pancreas and your liver. Mm-hmm. And they called me up. Barbara called me up first. Ms. Blues called me, and she said, "We have Buzz Connor and I have a letter for you, and we'd like to come over." And I said, "What's the letter about?" And she wouldn't tell me. I said, "Is it about telling me to leave?" And basically she said, "Yeah." So I said, no, this is not a good time. I said, "I have to have a surgery this month." Mm-hmm. So she said, "Okay, well, we'll call you, I'll call you like after your surgery, see how you're doing or something." Mr. Connor calls me the very next day, and he's saying the same thing, and he wants to come over. And I said, no, you can't come over. And I said, he said, well, I have this letter for you. And I said, well, just mail it to me. Put a stamp on it and mail it to you. Well, instead of mailing it to me, both of these letters he put them in my mailbox directly. And then I texted him, please don't open my mailbox. It's a federal offense. But anyway, that's the only thing I said to him. But the reason I finally had to block their phone numbers is because Judy was taking me, my friend Judy that lives next door.
You're not a person that you want to cross, are you?
Yeah. Judy that lives next door, she came and stayed at the house, at my mom's house with me. I was living there while I was sick and while I had my surgery. And she took me to the hospital to have my surgery.
Okay.
And while we were at the hospital waiting to have my surgery, Barbara Plews is calling me, telling me about the house, to talk to me about my mother's house.
Yeah.
So Judy texted her and said, would you please leave Leslie alone right now? She has to have her gallbladder removed. So I'm at the hospital and I'm still being harassed. So for some reason I had slipped out, let it slip. When I spoke to Buzz, I get the feeling he recorded our conversation because either that or took notes, because I slipped out that I had a lawyer appointment, but not till December 6th. That's the one stupid thing I did. Okay, I am capable of stupidity. Everything I did was pretty good, but that was just dumb. So I went to the lawyer, but I know the very next day, the 7th, because I remember that day very well, because that's the day I had to go to the surgeon for your checkup after you heal from surgery, to get a clean bill of health. The letter from him telling me to leave was in the mailbox the very day after I went to the lawyer, the 7th.
Okay.
He waited until after I went to the lawyer because he didn't want the lawyer to see and tell me that's not true about the tax-free status reason. Yeah. So it was very strategic.
Okay.
On their part, on his part, but another thing that was really, really inconsiderate was that when Mimi came to the hospital, that's our oldest sister, and she stayed at the house and she took me home and took care of me because you're supposed to have somebody with you at least 24 hours. Well, Mr. Connor emailed her while I just got home from the hospital about saying that, with the letter telling, that we would need Leslie to leave. And I've just come home from the hospital.
They wanted her help to get you to leave?
She just, they didn't, I don't know why they sent it to her. They couldn't get, my lawyer told me I didn't have to talk to them. I hadn't gone to him yet, truthfully, but a friend of mine who's a private investigator told me that it's probably best I not talk to them, and that's why I took that approach.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions before we start. Is that the part you wanted to add?
Well, I just felt like the fact that he would send that. Oh, I also said to the judge, notice here on these 2 letters, the first letter he says, I heard you've been sick. That's how he starts it out. And he's acknowledging I'm sick. The second letter telling me I can't have an estate sale, I have that right here. For some reason, it says, I hope your operation went well. So he's acknowledging the fact that I'm sick and had an operation.
He's pretending to be a person with empathy.
But the thing is that he's evicting me while I'm having sick and having an operation.
There's formalities. Okay, so now can I ask you? Okay, this is more, and any person would be curious. So you and your family, which originally was 6 people, but as you all moved away gradually, 4 kids, and Phyllis and Lyn, they all moved there because of Mayor Baba, to live on the Mayor Baba Center, because they believed in Mayor Baba. Well, are you a Baba follower today?
No.
Okay. Are either of your sons?
No.
Okay, you have 2 sisters that have their own life and have moved away. Do they follow Baba?
The second to the oldest is a Christian. The oldest one is kind of a Baba-liker, I think. Her husband's a Baba follower.
Okay, but she's an agnostic.
I don't know. She I don't really know what she is because she's kind of neutral. She's a very lovely person, but she's kind of neutral about everything.
Okay, so your family didn't stay with Baba. So what?
Well, my brother
Okay, I did.
Baba.
Yeah, I follow Baba. But for complicated... So, like, do you see how... what a message this sends to people that this all happened? Like, if anybody knew your story, would they be attracted to Mayor Baba?
Well, the way I see it...
Yes. How do you see it?
I think the people that are already into Baba are so brainwashed that they will believe anything that the center says. Because there was, some people that even tried to bribe me with money to leave. I said, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm not. They said it was because they wanted to protect the center's tax-free status. Like, they're worried about the center.
Yeah, they believe this.
And I stuck it out to the very end, and it was hard. It was so hard. I think that's why I could barely walk. I couldn't even walk.
Didn't you say you got a cane at some point?
Because I was like my mom. Like, my mom would fall because I'd had to chase her around with her walker, and then she was in a wheelchair. Well, I was like that. I didn't have my balance. I didn't have balance. I just couldn't even get out of bed without holding on to things and almost falling. But I wanted
does Baba teach something about taxes? No,
not that I know of.
Well, then why is
he didn't even handle money?
Okay. When you were going to move on to the center, did Mayor Baba say anything about that?
Oh, I don't. My brother says that he said.
I'm right here. Yeah.
Chris, you said.
I can show the letter. Baba said, "Yeah, that's okay as long as you consider the future prospects of the children."
Yes.
Otherwise, no.
Also, Mom and Dad said that they asked Elizabeth if when they die, would they throw their kids off the center? And Elizabeth said if they do, they will not be a spiritual center. But
she left it that way legally.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's just a liar. Okay, well, I think that's good. How do you feel about this?
Were there any more questions?
No, I've covered everything I wanted to hear. I think it's long. This is about an hour.
Okay. I just was saying that some people are so brainwashed.
Yeah.
And there were people that would report, people that would see something on Facebook that I said I was having an estate sale.
Yeah.
I even told the judge it was just going to be like a yard sale, selling antiques for $1. It wasn't going to be like a professional thing with an auction anyway.
Right.
But these people, they go and they tell Mr. Conner everything, and also it's like they're so loyal and have such allegiance to the center because they're just completely brainwashed.
And this is common in cults. Yeah.
Yes, it's cult mentality.
Cult mentality.
And they just cannot think outside of the box.
They'll circle the wagons around the cult leaders.
Right.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Maybe we'll do another part to this, but I'm going to put it online.
Thank you.
And thank you. All right. Take care.